Welcome to episode 7 of the Puck Bunker. I'm Rocco Zappia, joined as always by my co-host Darren Boyce. Boyce, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, Rocco. How you doing?
Fantastic. I'm excited to dive into this episode, especially. We're going to do something a little different. We're going to stray away from the prospect profiles just for today because we had the opportunity to catch in person the CHL versus USA Prospects Challenge. Boyce was able to take in the game 1 in London on Tuesday night, and I was able to make the drive up to Oshawa last night to see game 2. So without really any further ado, I'll just dive right into it. And Boyce, give me your thoughts of some thoughts of what you saw of game number 1.
Yeah, so game number 1, the CHL, I mean, they were the far superior team. I mean, they won 6-1, could have been 8 or 9-1, maybe 9-0 actually. They got a goal late to make it 6-1. I mean, at first glance, the obvious kind of thing you saw there was Matthew Schaefer's the best player on the ice. I think that was pretty evident that game. And I think that's something we had talked about previously, that we thought he was the top 1 or 2 pick. I think he's probably definitely the top pick. I think he's the best player. And it is interesting to see the pundits finally jump on. The pundits jump on that now. They saw one game and they're like, oh yeah, that's the best player. I'm like, well, it's kind of been that way. He's been a top 2 pick since the Holinka tournament. I think if people have actually been watching him per se, I mean, the only other guy I think it's even close right now is Misa to me, because at least he's a centerman having a great year. But I mean, he's a top pairing defenseman who can drive play, and he's got offense. He's good defensively. He's all over the ice. So I think that's where that was one of the conclusions I came to in that game.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
I agree with that 100%. And it's like I think I said that exactly in the feature that we did, that the reason that he's the top guy for me is because every time that I've seen him, he's been the best. He's been the best player on the ice, and it hasn't even been particularly close, really. And I think at this point, at least for me, and I haven't got to see Hagens in person, so I'm gonna like fully, full transparency there. And in-person viewing can change your opinion a lot about players, a lot.
Well, that's the benefit of going to this game. You can see a lot of these guys on
the same ice. But to me, at least in terms of the OHL guys, there's now 2 tiers. It's not 1 tier anymore. It's, there's been a lot of Misa, Martone, Schaefer back and forth as to who's the top dog in the OHL. But to me, coming out of the OHL and coming out of the CHL and coming out of North America and this entire draft class, there is one guy who's put himself in his own tier. And as far as I'm concerned, this is now the Matthew Schaefer draft.
Yeah, I think I haven't seen anything where he wouldn't be the number 1 pick. I mean, it's again, I mean, what I said before, the only thing is maybe there's a team that has a ton of young defensemen that want to draft a forward, but I mean, I feel like that would be that would be kind of, after watching him more again live, like I feel like that might not be the proper decision at that point. But that would be what I would worry about if some teams really want a centerman. That would be,
well, then you make a trade down, I think, because you can draft, when you're drafting within tiers or cohorts of players, or however you want to separate them, to draft within that same tier of guy for team need or team strategy or whatever makes sense. But when you just take the best player sometimes.
Yeah.
Just if the guy's the best, you just take the best guy, and you got the best player. Like, no one's gonna feel bad
for you.
No one's gonna feel bad because you have too many defensemen.
So I was talking to a friend of mine last night. Just we were watching the San Jose Ottawa game, and I'm just like, imagine if San Jose got Schaefer. Like, that would be like, imagine how good that team would be. I mean, that would look great.
That'd be a pretty good left side.
Yeah, exactly. They'd have him and Dickinson on left-hand shot Ds on 2 pairs. Like, that would be, then you get all their forwards. I mean, that's a team.
No, that would be.
I don't know if
That'd
I
be the
don't know if
best
they'll
left
be
side.
bad
That'd be
enough,
the best
though.
left side in hockey one day in their prime.
I don't know if they'll be bad enough to get him, though. Celebrini's good. Like, they're not going to be as
Dude,
bad as they were.
is Celebrini fucking sick or what?
Oh, by the way, getting off topic here, but he's better than Bedard. That's not a lot of people want to admit that, but he is.
He looks like he might be. He looks like he might be. He's
he does more.
Yep, he does. He has more elements. That's for sure.
I saw a stat. He was leading the league in takeaways per 60 minutes after like 12 or 13 games,
which is insane.
Yeah,
that's a rookie.
Yeah,
I don't care if it's 12 or 13 games.
And he's already got. I mean, he scored again last night, so I mean, he's putting up points too. Like
even if it is a 12-game sample size for a rookie to lead the league in take. I think it was puck battles won maybe.
But something like that. But I mean, a rookie winning
some stat like that. But if any rookie leads the league in that,
yeah, exactly,
over any 12-game stretch throughout the course of the year, that's impressive as hell.
Yeah, and you're very happy moving forward to what that could be.
Yeah,
like, I mean, what's he going to be in? What's he going to be in 3 or 4 years?
And like that's something that I chatted about last year. I mean, me and Grant, when I was working with him last year, chatted about it pretty extensively. That like, is there a huge difference between Celebrini and Bedard other than the hype?
Yeah.
And the conclusion that we came to was no, not really. And we're seeing it. We're seeing it now. The kid's been freaking unbelievable. San Jose got a franchise
well, like,
player.
I think that's a winning player. But anyway, we're off topic. So speaking of,
it is a winning player. It does everything.
Other winning players.
Here we go. The segue. Talk about Desnoyers.
Segue.
Yeah, go talk about Desnoyers.
Caleb Desnoyers is a top 5 pick, and he's not 5. And no one's saying this, but every time he's on the ice, he wins every draw. He picks off every puck, and they're in the offensive zone the entire game. So
I
don't know what I'm missing with some of these rankings on guys. I mean, I get it. Like, I get the top.
It's viewings. That's it.
Yeah, I get the top 4 guys are like, again, Misa's a great player. Like, Martone's a great player. Like, Hagens is, again, we haven't seen him live. I mean, he's done some really high-end things.
He's a great player.
Yeah. Desnoyers is, he's a 2007, so he's younger than some of these guys. He's 6'1", like 6'2". He's not fully developed yet in terms of his strength. And yet he's already doing all of these really high-end, kind of on the edges things. Not to mention he's very offensive and goes to the net and scores goals that way. So I have a lot of people are like, oh, he's a 2C. Like, I don't know if he is. Like, I think this guy can be a number 1 center in the NHL.
And that play he made, the goal that Misa scored last night, that pass by Desnoyers on the power play through 25 sticks, like, he looked everybody off. He waited. He had the smallest seam in the world to put that puck through. And like Misa, it was an absolute tap, not to take away from Misa. It was a nice finish on the play, but oh my God, what a play he made. And I couldn't believe it. I watched the replay. I'm staring up at the screen like this, and like my jaw just kept dropping a little bit more every time I'm watching the replay. So I'm like, holy
look at
shit.
The first goal. Look at the first goal. So Martone is a good, like, again, nice takeaway, get the puck. Great play from him. But Desnoyers goes right to the net, and like, that's a great tip.
Yeah, like, absolutely.
And like, that translates. Like, that goal right there will translate. And when he gets stronger, like, that's
both of those goals translate.
Yeah. So he's in my top 5, I think, pretty firmly. And I think you're going to see him move up in a lot of other people's rankings. Just, at least like, there's some other guys, again, there's lots of good players here, but I mean, I don't see what the detriment is to him. Like, he's not small. Like, his only thing is that he's kind of light right now, but he can, like, again, he'll get bigger. He's already got a good frame.
I think one of the biggest things for him is that he just doesn't necessarily have the public track record, I guess, the clout in the public sphere. Coming into this, that other guy, I know, but hold on, listen, he's out in the queue. He's out in fucking Moncton. Like, who really pays attention to the queue other than like the national media guys don't cover this. Like, he's not coming out of the OHL. He's not coming out of the US program.
Fair. There's a fair point there.
they get picked up a lot later. So he doesn't have this steamroll of hype coming into the year the same way that, Misa had exceptional status. Those guys always get their hype. And Martone was unbelievable. Already played for Team Canada. Same thing with Spence. You know what I mean? So they're more known. So I don't know that it's necessarily no one thinks he's as good. I just don't think they've seen him as much, but they're going to see him.
Yeah. I mean, he probably isn't going to make the team for Team Canada because, I mean, they're for the World Juniors. That team's stacked, but I mean,
they're not taking
he should get an invite. And honestly, some of these guys I've seen on the team, I think Misa's better than some of those guys they put on the team too. Like these kind of, they're guessing who's going to be on the team, right? Like I think
Misa's going to make the team.
I hope so. But there's some people are saying he's not going to, which is shocking to me. But and again, it's no criticism of some of the older guys that the 19-year-olds in the CHL, but I mean, I get that these guys are 17, but they're still
if you're better, I don't care.
They're the best players.
Yeah. If you're already the best player in the OHL, you should be on the team.
Exactly.
Period. Or best forward, at least in the OHL, because there's another.
And last year,
sure.
Well, last year they also kind of brought all these kind of grinding guys and didn't have any offense. So, I mean,
didn't have as much of a choice last year.
They have a choice this year. So,
yeah, yes, they do. But I felt last year even they should have taken one or two draft eligibles that had some high scoring, just put them in the right spots. And I don't know, I think it's a benefit to have guys who are returning players the next year.
Well, the other thing is too in these games here, like Misa was kind of going from wing to center, right? And he's a good centerman, but he can play wing. So I mean, again, you have some.
He looks fine.
I feel like that's a really
good play, though. Most centers can slide to the wing. It's not hard.
Yeah, but he's he's also like a good centerman. So you can use him. You know what I mean? He's
versatile.
Yeah, he's very versatile. So I mean,
he got the speed too to probably if he felt like committing to it, to probably make a hell of a penalty killer too in an international tournament.
Sure, I mean,
Marner does it, and I'm not a big Mitch Marner guy. That's not a secret, but he's a hell of a penalty killer with his speed, right?
Well, that was the other. So about these games, I mean, so a game in London, I watched Misa, and what was very nice to see from him is he was actually hitting guys. And he was.
I noticed that last night.
Very physical, which is something we had pointed out that he's quite strong along the boards, but he doesn't really actively go hit guys all the time. He was making a commitment to doing that, and he was out muscling a lot of guys, that's really good to see. So again, you're looking at a guy again. We were talking about in the top two, or even for first overall. I mean, the kind of the detriment but a flaw is that he wasn't really actively seeking physicality, but it kind of looks like he can do that and be pretty good at it.
Yeah, and that gives me actually a lot of confidence that he's willing to go out and show that now. Let's keep in mind as well, these guys knew that there was 32 teams with scouts in the building.
There was 300. I think there was over 300 people there or something at the London game that were.
Oh yeah. So every single team had scouts there. Plus, you had another 100 dummies like us there covering the game who are going to yap about it on the internet, right?
Yeah.
So the kids know that. So and now that's one thing that I want to point out. I noticed last night there was a lot more individualistic play than I've seen from a lot of these guys throughout their regular seasons with their teams, because I do think that everyone's going out with the mindset. It is a showcase, and they all want to showcase what they have. So there was that a little bit, but these guys know. Getting back to my point, these guys know that everyone's watching. So for him to go out and say, "Hey, I'm going to make a point to show that I do have some physicality," that eases it a lot in my mind for when it comes to the harder times of the year and the playoffs. That he's not going to have any issue with that. If he's willing to go out and finish checks and run guys in the middle of November, you can bet your ass he's probably going to do it in April.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, I was impressed. I hadn't seen that from him. So, I mean, again, I know it's a prospects game, and I know that you saw some more individualistic things, but I mean, what I noticed at London, it was fast. This was very fast.
Oh yeah. Well, the effort level was very high.
Well, the first shift of the game in London, I think there was 3 or 4 American players were on the ground. which was like, again, but I loved it. Like, I loved to see that.
Probably weighed down by their giant fishbowl helmets. It tipped over.
So speaking of physicality, you have Kashawn Aitchison just hammering everybody.
Dude, get this guy on my team. I don't care where I take. Like, oh my God, he's an animal.
Yeah.
He's an animal out there.
Yeah, he's always in the middle of everything.
Yes.
He is.
He's going to be a fan
to play against.
He's going to be a fan favorite wherever he ends up. Wherever he ends up getting drafted, the fans are going to just absolutely love this guy.
Now he did go out of his way to hammer a couple guys and kind of got away with it.
Good.
He completely blew up an American player, and the guy didn't have the puck, and somehow the CHL ended up not getting a penalty for it, which seems like a little bit of a CHL bias on the reffing there.
Dude, junior players make mistakes. Junior refs make mistakes. The refereeing is not perfect. You know what I mean? Like
Kid wasn't near the puck. Wasn't near the puck and blew him up.
Yeah, they probably just missed it, dude. Like, they miss lots of stuff out there. They're up and coming refs as well. Like, I'm not going to hammer on the refs for it, but I do love that he's out there lighting guys up. You know, mostly clean, mostly legally.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, what I like about him is that he's very intelligent defensively. He's very good at knowing where he is on the ice and where the other guys are.
He times his jumps and he times his runs very well.
So he's not an elite puck mover, but I mean, I think he's going to move it good enough.
He can shoot it. He can really shoot it.
He can shoot the puck. He's not elite offensively, but he'll contribute. Like, there's a player there.
I think he looks like a very, very well-rounded second pair defenseman who could really play. Honestly, like, there's a guy. He's a defenseman version of a bit of a jackknife, and I could see him having success on either special teams because I think he moves it well enough, and I think he has a very good shot that he could play on a second power play. I think he's going to end up being a really, really good penalty killer. Yeah, and he'll probably be an absolute fucking nightmare to play against against anybody. So
if he was a couple inches bigger, like if he was a couple inches taller, we'd be talking about him much further up in the draft, I think, than
and if my grandma had wheels, she'd be a bike.
I know, but what I'm saying is that there's skills here that teams do like.
Oh, for sure, he's a no-brainer first rounder, like no doubt.
Like, I think he can play on a team's power play as the second unit. I think teams would probably, they'll have a stud on the first power play. They might have some, other maybe offensive guy they played lower in the lineup on the second, but he can play there in a pinch, and I don't think he would struggle at it. Like, I think he would be fine.
Yeah, it'd just be a little bit more of a simple power play. He's just not dynamic like you would want a first power play.
No, he's not gonna.
He can also slide over. Like, if you have a two defenseman, if you have 2D on one of the units, he could slide over and be one of the trigger guys on the top of the circle.
Yeah, like it'll work. Like, I think you would have some, and plus on an NHL power play, you're gonna have other offensive guys out there. You probably have another guy that's a threat anyway. Kind of, with his passing anyway, and he can shoot the puck. So it's not. I think it works.
I loved his game,
but I did like his game.
How could you not? How could you not?
Well, even last night there was another play. Like, he drew a penalty because he kind of slashed a guy, and the other guy hit him in the head with his stick after, and he drew a penalty that way. So I mean, he's annoying. He's very annoying.
He takes guys with him to the box at least.
Yeah. So I liked his game. And another guy I kind of been hard on too was, again, I pointed out some of his flaws, but Jackson Smith actually had a good game when I was there. And what I like to see is that he wasn't taking risks all the time. He was being conservative in his decision making, and when he's conservative, he's a really good rush defender. So when he isn't making these high risk, high reward plays, he's actually quite effective, and he can still make the high reward plays after once he gets the puck. So, I mean, I liked what I saw, but then again, I just watched kind of the first period. In his first shift, he just threw a pizza up the middle, basically. So, that kind of draws in, right? Like, so if I was an NHL team, like I see that first game, like, okay, this is the guy this is the guy I see. This is the guy I can draft, and this guy can be good for my team for a long time. And he has some offensive ability. It's just kind of harnessing, the the those high risk plays that he doesn't have to make because he is a good enough defenseman where he doesn't have to make them.
Okay, so here's my take on Jackson. But then, and I mentioned this to you last night when we were chatting about it when I was driving back. Most of these guys grew up as by far the most talented kids on their team, and probably in their whole league, right?
Yeah.
And so they're used to being able to do whatever they want and make rinky-dink plays that don't work against good players, but they get away with it because they're the best player. And it's just like, how are you supposed to learn the habits and the details if you never needed to? You know what I mean? So there's an adjustment period, but you saw him simplify his game last night when he was playing with other good players. And that's the thing. And that's what I said when we were debating him the other episode. I said, well, just coach him, dude. Like, just coach the kid. I don't think he doesn't lack hockey sense. I mean, I question his decision making, but I don't think he lacks hockey sense. And those, I think, to me are different things. It's just because there's things that just need to be coached out of his game that he would have used to been able to get away with. But it's not because he's not a smart hockey player, because he makes so many good plays that are smart plays that he knows what he's doing out there. I think he's just always been the best. And when you're always the best, you can get away with being a little bit careless. And I think that's probably that. But I'm not as concerned about it, because you see him when he does play just like a little more boring hockey. He is one of the best players on the ice.
He's very effective at that.
And he's not.
I moved him up my rankings from that, which, by the way,
you had him way too low.
But in a couple episodes, we'll both have our rankings out. So look towards that. But I did move him up, just having that live viewing of him. Just again.
Well, he's more talented than other guys out there. Period.
Yeah.
He's more talented.
I think in the game, I think I saw a stat. The game, he had the most rushes defended or something. He had the best rush defense of that game.
Dude,
which again,
excellent one-on-one defender.
He had a really good game, and it was really good.
His feet
it was good to see. Again, but that's the point, right? That's why you want to see these live viewings of guys, right? That's why a game like this is, you can look on video, and then, but again, a live viewing, you see a lot of other things out there. So who are the guys in the game that we haven't mentioned yet that kind of stuck out to you?
Oh, well, I think that first power play on that first power play in Canada. Holy
that's
shit.
Ridiculous.
Dude, they have I think that's four of the top 5 on that unit.
Yeah, it is. And another guy maybe in the top 10.
And another guy maybe in the top 10. Malcolm Spence was great over 2 games.
Yeah.
Wow. I haven't been giving him enough credit, and he shoved it down my throat a little bit these last 2 games, which I was hoping for, because look, I loved Malcolm Spence last year. I thought he was the best player at that U18 for Canada, the best forward anyways, consistently in that whole tournament. And I had been a little bit disappointed from what I saw early in the season, and maybe I was just caught a couple of not his best games, or whatever the case was. But with other good players, when he's put in the right role, man, there's not going to be many guys in this draft who are as effective as a very smart, versatile power winger than Malcolm Spence.
Yeah. So in that game in London, again, he's playing with good players, but he's the one that's, again, kind of in the middle of everything. I mean, a lot of these chances, he's right in the middle of it. He's always around the puck, which is kind of what we saw in the, kind of looking at his, recent video, I guess, is something, he's always around the puck. He's always kind of a menace around the puck, whether he's getting it back for his team or he's just kind of causing havoc for, his opponents. And then, I mean, when he plays with guys that can get him the puck, he can put the puck in the net. Like, I mean, he goes to the net, he shoots the puck, because that was kind of what I was worried about last year. He didn't shoot the puck a lot. And, now he is, and he's physical and he's big, and he looks quick out there. Like, he does look fast live. Now I don't know if it's, it's kind of maybe a more north-south guy, but I mean, I think there's a guy here that can score 60 points.
Well, the
think,
NHL is north south.
Yeah, like I think there's a guy here who can be a really effective NHL player.
I think so too. I see. I don't know if I see a first line player, but
it's the guy we said though. He can kind of move. He could probably play on a first line if they needed him to.
I always thought he had a third line floor, and I still believe that. But after seeing the last couple of games, I do think he has. I think he has more offensive upside than I gave him credit for.
Yeah, like he does have more upside than maybe some other third line kind of floor guys we've talked about. I do like, again, he goes to hard areas too. And I mean, the puck's not a grenade for him. Like he can, move the puck around. He can shoot the puck around. He's fast. Like he can create chances himself.
Well, dude, they had, I'll put it this way. They had a lot of very good options they could have put on that first power play unit, and they put Malcolm Spence. So
yeah,
that says
he fit well. And he fit well.
Yeah, no kidding. I thought Martone looked very good last night. I thought Martone was awesome last night. He, another guy, maybe I didn't give quite enough credit to, but from all accounts, his game in Ottawa was his worst one of the year, and that's the one I happened to see. So I was rightfully disappointed in that performance. But dude, I don't know that there's a better player in this draft class in the dirty areas, like within 3 feet of the boards down low. He's so strong, you can't get the puck off him, and he has hands like he's 5'9", dude. His hands are so good, and like, okay, I get it. He's slow. He's not a great skater, and I get that drives you bananas. But so much of the game is played below top speed, right? It's tight. There's not a ton of space out there to wheel around and get going and really get up to top speed, all that option. It might hurt him on the rush a little bit, but even on the rush, he is a smart player and he's able to slow the play down, right, on his own. And he makes the other team play at his speed somehow.
Yeah. Well, he's good on the cycle and that too, right? So yeah. So like, again, I'm not down on the player. He's in my top 5, Rocco.
He's the best. No, he's the best. He's the best cycle forward, and he's the best cycle forward in the draft class.
So even on the first goal last night, I mean, that was again good takeaway. Like shows good hand-eye, good patience, and gets a nice hard shot to the net that can be tipped. Like that's a professional play right there.
Yeah.
Now in the game I saw, it's just, again, the worries I have are a little, as you said, are a little bit of his skating, which is why maybe I don't have him, 1 or 2 where maybe some other guys do. Because I mean, he does look to get behind the play sometimes. And he took a hooking penalty because he was kind of out of position just to step behind. So again, that's kind of my worry a little bit, maybe compared to the other top guys. But I mean, there's no real argument here. The guy can handle the puck like easily.
But dude, like Tkachuk gets behind on plays. Mark Stone gets behind on plays. Jason Robertson gets behind on plays. But they're so smart and where the game is played offensively. Once you get them on the cycle, it doesn't matter if they can. Doesn't matter if they can skate because they're powerful and they're strong and you can't take the puck off them. And their hands are so good that you coming at them and trying to get the puck, all it does is open up more lanes for them. And they're smart enough to use it and they have quick enough hands to use it. So I'm watching, and that's what I was watching. And yes, his quickness is not there. I don't think his top speed is awful, but it takes him a while to get going. But to me, it does take him a while to get going. His quickness is not good. But he's 6'3", and he's 18 years old, right? That might come.
I mean, the skating can improve. I don't think it'll ever be.
No, he's not going to. He's never going to. No, he's
never going to be
Michael Grabner. He's never going to be Michael Grabner out there, right?
No,
but he doesn't need to be, because there's enough big guys with brains and hands and slower feet that are superstars in this league.
Yeah,
superstars.
Well,
so, I don't know.
You're talking about Mark Stone, right?
I'm talking about Mark Stone. I'm talking about Brady Tkachuk. I'm talking about Jason Robertson. There's a handful of guys, right? So if the blueprint's already there, and now these guys,
do you think he's a Mark Stone type?
Okay, well, I don't know, but would any one of those 3 guys ever get traded? Ever? Would anyone be crazy enough to trade one of those guys?
Don't give the Ottawa Senators any suggestions. Don't do that.
Okay, aside from the Ottawa Senators trading Mark Stone, which I forgot about because that's the most insane That's the most insane thing I've ever seen happen in Ottawa hockey. Is that Mark Stone?
Sorry, move on.
I'm gonna have to go get my blood pressure checked after this. But to my point, like these are guys that are very hard to find. And I'm not saying he's Mark Stone. I'm not saying he's Brady Tkachuk, and I'm not saying he's Jason Robertson, but he has a lot of those three guys in him. He does. And I don't think he's tough like Brady. I don't think he's gonna go smash it down your throat. But I think
Pretty
he's
physical though. Yeah, he's pretty physical though.
Yeah, but Brady Tkachuk's a Looney Tune.
Yeah, he's a lunatic. You can say
it. There's like he's not. I wish every guy was Brady Tkachuk. To me, that's exactly what I want my whole team full of. But Martone's not as hard as Tkachuk, but I think he's more skilled.
Yeah.
And Brady Tkachuk's a point a game player who went 4th overall in his draft, who's captain of his team. So there's some similarities there. Yeah. There are. And I think actually Martone actually has more natural offensive skill than Brady does.
I don't think that at this age he does. I think, yeah.
Well, we can only compare what we've seen. So
yeah,
yes, Tkachuk's a point a game player now in the league, but
that's different though. Like when they were prospects, I think that's probably a fair comment,
right? Because everyone said the whole thing about Tkachuk was which was the best pick the best pick Ottawa could have possibly made there, and they're saying, oh well, he might not be offensive enough. He's just big, slow, blah blah, whatever. As if you know what I mean. And now look, would anyone not make room for him on their team? 30.
No, I think every team would be calling Ottawa if they were trading him.
Right, exactly. So, what if that's what this guy is, and he showed those elements to me.
Well, he's not a center though, right? So you're gonna have to work that into.
Neither's Tkachuk.
Well, yeah,
neither's Robertson, and neither's Stone.
Yeah.
It almost doesn't work as a center, honestly, because of the skating. I wouldn't want them as a center. You can they play wing. You can get away with being a little slower.
Okay. I mean, he's in my top 5. It sounds like he's in yours too. We might just have him in different spots, but
he is. He's definitely, and he always was in my top 5. But I had separated Misa and him a little bit.
Yeah.
And I've unseparated them. Those two guys need to be watched very closely. I don't know who's going to be one of the, but I like them a lot now. Both. I finally saw those great moments from Martone that I had seen on video that I hadn't seen yet up close. And there are different elements that you miss on video that you see in person. And kid's a real deal, man.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, there's high offensive upside there. Can't argue with that. Now, segue into a couple other things. Were there a couple guys that you weren't as impressed with?
I don't want to say wasn't as okay. These are showcase games, and when I'm watching these games, I'm only looking for the good.
Yeah.
Right? Because a guy can have a bad night, and if he has a bad night against the other top players from his draft class, he's going to look very bad. But that's not necessarily a reflection of what the actual talent level. So I'm coming into these games just to preface, I'm looking to see things from certain players, but I'm looking for guys who stand out, or to help kind of just compare certain individual traits with certain guys on the ice. But I don't want to hold it against guys too much. Now,
I guess maybe I'm asking if there was maybe some concerns you saw with anybody out there.
Yeah, and the entire American team concerned me. The whole team.
To be fair, I don't think that's quite fair to them because they have 3 guys are in college and their top defenseman was playing for the CHL team. So
I understand. I'm just being a bit of a prick, but that was juice. That was the most lopsided 1-goal game I've ever seen in my whole life, ever. I didn't like. There's a couple things that concerned me a little bit. I don't know. I don't know where. I don't know where Cameron Reed really what he is elite at. He's really, really, really good at everything. And
He's
but
solid
sometimes
at
when you're
everything, right?
yeah,
Like
he's
he's
solid at everything. But sometimes when you're solid at everything, it can leave you without a defined role in the NHL level. And
yeah.
it's hard to be successful without a defined role. Is he like because he's average, very average size, right? He's 6 foot, so it's like, can you be that big bruising shutdown guy? Well, no. Now you can be smart and a good positional defenseman, but you're still only 6 foot, so you're not going to be that tough to play against. Can you be the elite puck mover? No, because you're just a half step below a guy like Schaefer is, and those are the guys that become the first power play guys. So can you be an effective all-around middle pair D? Yeah, yes, you can, but that's the hope. So I really like the players. He works really hard. He's a good skater. He moves the puck well. He's smart. He defends well. But he does everything very well. I don't know what's truly elite yet.
So he's the guy. Our next episode, just to segue into that, I'll be doing a review of him. So we'll maybe go over him further. But I don't think you're wrong with anything you said there. He does everything decently well, but there's nothing that really stands out
I just
as
don't
an
want. I just
elite
don't want to sound
skill,
like I don't.
right?
I just don't want to sound like I don't like the player because
No,
I
like he
really do
has,
like
like
the
he is
player.
good.
He's
It's like
very good.
he's. I think he's above average in pretty much every skill set, mostly.
Yeah,
From what I've seen so far, both live and kind of on video. I actually did like how he moved the puck on the power play. I thought that was maybe a more above
yeah,
average than maybe his other things. But
yeah.
again, is he going to be high enough in the pecking order to be on the power play? And that is a valid question for the player. But I mean, I will say this: I don't think any of the American defensemen would have been on that decor for the CHL team. I don't, and I don't think that's an unreasonable take.
Yeah, I think one guy for sure, but no more. Maximum three would have even of any position would have from the American team would
I think
Murtag be on that
Murtag
team.
would have made the team.
Murtag was by far Murtag's the best player that I've seen
Yeah,
from the US and has been consistent like that across.
he was really good in the London game. He was kind of their only dangerous guy. He
Oh, he
created
did.
he created opportunities, for himself and his teammates. I mean, he made guys miss a couple times. He scored, and it was kind of a nice one-timer goal. I mean, he can shoot the puck. I mean, he scored last night again too, though I would argue the goalie probably should have stopped that. But I mean, he was their most dangerous guy, and I think that'll be another guy we'll have to review here shortly. That might definitely
Two other guys I thought had good games for the Americans. I thought Cole McKinney was good, who is their number one center. I've got some time for this player. I liked him. I liked his game quite a bit. And he's not someone that I've gotten to dive into on video yet. So I'm not gonna talk about what kind of player he is because I haven't watched him enough to give that kind of opinion. But I liked his game last night. He stood out on a number of occasions without me having to look for him, which was good. And William Bell, I thought was a freight train for them. He was in there actually actually playing hard, not fake after the whistle tough like the rest of their team was doing. He was actually tough and going in and skating hard and finishing hits and being no fun to play against. So I thought Murtag, McKinney, and Bell were the three Americans that I thought showed the best, at least in the one game last night.
Yeah.
So now that being said, it was tough to get a gauge on the American squad because they never had the puck.
Yeah.
And when they did have the puck, there was two Canadians on them forcing turnovers. Like they're okay. There's a lot of good players on that American team.
Well, they have the American team have a lot of draft. Like these are
but
guys that will all be drafted.
Yes, but Canada has
to put reference that they will mostly all be drafted.
Yes, most of them. They're not all. There's a couple guys on that team who aren't getting drafted, but
most of them.
Yeah, and I won't say who for just no sense being mean, but there's a couple guys who aren't going to get picked. But Canada, like most of them, are going to get picked. But Canada's are mostly first rounders.
Yeah,
and everybody on that team is getting picked.
Yeah,
and probably in the first 3 rounds. So
Yes. Yeah.
and 15 of those guys are going to be in the first round, and 4 of them are going to be in the top 5. So the states, like, they weren't supposed to win that game, but it did make it a little tougher to properly evaluate them, because they never really had any sort of groove. Justin Carbonell.
What do you want to say about it?
Jekyll and Hyde a little bit. He can look like the best. He can be the best player on the ice, dude. And okay. I'm going to say this about Justin Carbonell. He is as individually skilled as almost anybody out there not named Matthew Schaefer.
Maybe Roger McQueen might be that too.
So he is a supremely skilled hockey player. His hands are so good. His quickness is so good. He's hard when he wants to be. He can turn pucks over. But he needs the puck too much.
Yeah.
He needs to be more comfortable playing without the puck. And I think he needs to defer to his teammates a little bit better, especially. And it's one thing on Blainville where you're head and shoulders the best player. I mean, and no Bear's good. He plays on a very good line, but he's the guy, right? He's the guy there. So you got to learn. But in the NHL, you might not always be the guy, and on a Team Canada, you might not always be the guy, and you need to add some support piece elements, I think, to his game, and be comfortable. Like, when you're playing with 2 other talented players, you don't need to beat 2 guys consecutively to open up a tap in goal. You don't need to. You can beat them. When we being the first guy, he's really good at being the first guy, but then he gets himself into a little bit of trouble trying to do too much. But you see videos of him at practice, and he's chirpy and he's funny, and like he seems like a really good kid, and he seems like a guy that other guys like. And that's important. I would just like to see him be more comfortable deferring the puck.
Yeah. So with him, when we did the review, that was kind of earlier in the process here. I am going to move him up my list a little bit just because of the offensive upside. And I don't think there's a ton of guys that have the upside he has.
He has a lot of upside.
Yeah, there's a lot of upside here, and he can be a hard player, and he can do a lot of these things but the problem is he doesn't do it consistently. And as you said, he does need to learn how to use his teammates better. There was a play again on Monday where so this is kind of the epitome of the player. He dangled one of the American players and gets, the whole building's oohing and awing that he makes this, ridiculous looking play. But then instead of, he gets by his man. Now he has an advantage. There's a guy open. Instead of making a play to get it open, he tries to beat another guy with another dangle, and he loses the puck.
Yeah.
And it's just like, that's kind of the epitome of the player. Like, he has this ability to do that, but he does it too often, and he causes turnovers of basically to himself by not using his teammates enough. And he really, and now if he can learn to harness that, that's the upside in the player, right? Like, that's what these teams will look at. Like, you can get a very high quality offensive player here if he kind of simplifies some of his game. And that's what this game was interesting to see, if he was going to do that. And it kind of the things I was worried about were still evident, I guess.
But it's also a showcase game, like I said earlier, where everyone is trying to show their top stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that it wasn't just him. I noticed it on a couple guys. There was a lot of times in that game where a player on either team would hold the puck one too long, trying to get on the highlight reel, I think. But dude, there's 32 teams.
Yeah.
There. They all want to look their best, right? But I mean, if we're going just on pure talent alone, he's a top 10 pick.
Yeah, especially offensively. There's a lot of offensive talent. He can shoot the puck too, right?
His shot is nasty. Dude, there's no tool, there's no physical tool that he, like, offensively, that is not really, really high end.
No, it's more
than the decision making.
Well, it's kind of the awareness and vision, right? That's what we're kind of
I don't think he's like, you watch it, like Shane Wright and Cole Eiserman, they came off as more selfish players because their body language was brutal, right?
Yeah.
Things didn't go their way. They're huffing and puffing. They're throwing a stink, slamming their stick, like being complete fucking babies about it. And this kid doesn't do that. So I don't think he's selfish. I just think he honestly almost tries too hard sometimes.
Well, as you said, though, you saw him live, and you said you saw him live game, and he kind of, again, he changed his game a little bit, which is, that's good to see. I mean, if he's accepting of,
the game I saw him in Patno, he was lights out.
Exactly. So, I mean, if there's,
he was good last night. He was good last night. He made a lot of really good plays where a lot of instances. Okay, he was very good last night in the sense that he showed off the skills and the talent that he has, and the talent that he has is very obvious. But again, that's really my only issue with the game is you don't need to beat 2 and 3 guys. If you beat one guy clean, which he does very consistently, he's very consistent at beating the first guy. And if you can beat one guy clean and take him out of the play and blow by him, now you have created yourself an odd man situation for your team.
Yeah.
You're going to get the puck back. You're the best shooter on most lines that you're going to play on.
Yeah.
Beat the first guy, dish it, and then get that wind up.
Well, I think he's got to trust that he's going to get the puck back. I think that's kind of, yeah. So,
but again, another situation of a guy who was guaranteed by far the best player on any team he's ever played on up until this point.
Yeah. Right? And as I said, I actually moved him up after seeing him live. Like I see why, like, again, I had him too low, but I see, there is that upside there that teams will be interested in.
Oh, to me, as of right now, I have him in the top half of the first round. I don't know where exactly, but he's in the top.
I don't know if I have him in the top half, but I mean, he's around 15 to 20. He's around there. I mean, you can't turn down that upside. I don't think some of these teams. It's too.
Well, he's a no-brainer first rounder for you.
Yeah,
correct?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. We agree with that. I like him a little bit more than you still, but that's okay. We're gonna like different guys, different amounts. I'm more of the mindset that unless there's a huge red flag with a kid's effort level or attitude, I'm willing to work with his flaws.
Well, his effort was good. I mean, again, when I was worried before, his effort was fine, actually. Like, I wasn't, I thought his, getting back and like kind of defensive zone and that, like, he wasn't bad. So, I mean, that was, I mean, again, it's a game where you're going to try hard. So, I mean, take that with a grain of salt, right? It's not a regular league game, but I mean, that's, again, I mean, if he can be, like, again, if he could develop into being a decent defensive player, I mean, that, even if he does kind of have some vision issues in that, he'll still be able to play. Because he'll be like, he's the guy, if he makes the NHL, like, he can play on a power play and like he will be very effective on a power play. So,
and he's not soft. I think he's got
I know he's not small.
No.
So, I mean, there's skills there that teams would like. It's just it's kind of the thing, again, he would kind of drive some coaches a little bit crazy with some of the decisions he makes. That would be
if he cleaned up, if he simplified his game a little bit, though, he could end up being like a Marchessault type, versatile.
He's bigger than him, though. Like,
exactly. Right.
So, and he has the try hard. He does have that try when he wants to. He has that try hard in him. He can definitely do that.
I feel like he can play with a chip on his shoulder, right?
Yeah.
So, anyways, I very much like the player, but just, I mean, everyone has their things to work on, and for him, I would just like to see him be more comfortable playing without the puck. But God, he's really exciting. He's a really exciting player. How are you doing for time? Can we go over one more guy?
Yeah. Well, I might have one too, so we can go 2.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about Bear and Schmidt, really.
Okay, go ahead.
I thought Bear he showed some excellent attributes.
I wish I got to see him play because he wasn't playing in London.
I know. And you're a Bear guy. You love the Bear. Really quick. I thought his quickness and his edge work and his agility really good. Really good. Those are the kind of things that you can see when you're watching on video. Like, a lot of guys look very quick and agile. When you see it in person, there's just something there's just like a half a split hair difference that you can actually notice more in person. Just gains just a little bit of separation on guys using his edges and his quickness and that sort of thing. And I was really impressed with him, especially after coming off. You know, he couldn't have been feeling 100%. He was too sick the night before, so he was obviously playing under the weather. But I thought he was very impressive.
Yeah, well, like what I've seen watching him, I like the physical aspect of his game, and I get he's not the biggest guy. He's not small, but he's not the biggest guy. But like he's a try hard. Like he's working hard. He's hitting guys. He's finishing all his checks. He's racing back when he has to. I mean, everything that he does, this is the type of player that teams are going to love him.
Yes.
And I think too, there's some guys in this draft. You know, there are a couple maybe other try hard guys like Zahn, and we've already reviewed, who works. Sorry, my dog's barking.
That's fine.
So Zonin, who also works really hard, he's a bigger body than him, but I don't think he has the skating ability or the offensive upside that Bear has. I think Bear's really good offensively. And now whether you think that translates the NHL, what translates better at the NHL level or not, like I think Zonin's never really going to drive maybe a line in the NHL, but he could play. No, but he could play with good players, and he'd be a good passenger on that line. And he'll go to spots that'll make that line effective, right? Like he'll get the puck, he'll go to the front of the net, he'll tip in stuff like the kind of what we said, like the Zach Hyman thing, right? Whereas I think Bear might be able to maybe drive a line and still kind of play that way. But again, he's smaller, so you kind of wonder what his maybe the physical toll might have on him or the other guys he's playing against. So that's kind of what you're a little bit worried about with him.
And he does the right things, but like in the NHL level, am I worried about Carter Bear along the boards and the corners? No, not really.
You say that though, but like, what are the things with when we look at smaller players though?
He's just like there's going to be other guys that are also good at it and big. So like he's very good at the junior level. I don't think I'm not trying to downplay it. I just don't think that's going to be his bread and butter at the NHL level.
Maybe not the bread and butter, but when we think about smaller players, what makes them effective, especially guys who are able to play in the playoffs that are smaller? What makes them effective?
Well, they're low, usually a really strong lower body, and B, a really big pair of balls.
Yeah, he has that second part, and I'm assuming again he'll have to get stronger, but I mean he already has that second part. Like he can play it.
He's not afraid at all.
No. So I mean, and he's skilled. Like he's skilled. He can shoot the puck. Like he has some, there's skills there. So, I mean,
was he B rated?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a mistake.
Yeah,
he's an A.
Yeah. Well, I think after the first half of the year, some of these guys have moved him up, and after viewing him, like I think he definitely was deserving of an A. I think he might have actually got changed to an A in the last week or something. I think I saw someone say that. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean that's fine, but the list at the beginning of the year is never.
No, it's never right. And again, this is why again.
I'll watch.
Speaking of that, we're basically have one more set of A's to do from the preseason list, and then we'll start going over other guys we think are having good years and should kind of move up or even down the list. But no, I really liked him, and I was disappointed that I couldn't see him live because he does a lot of the things that I like. But yeah. I mean, I'm not as hesitant on smaller guys if they play that way. I'm more hesitant on the smaller guys when they don't play. Like they kind of play like a more perimeter, softer game.
Oh, I agree. And he's not that small.
No, he's not that small either. So I shouldn't even say that. The next guy we're talking about is very small.
Cameron Schmidt.
Yeah.
Oh, man. This is a guy that is okay. I hammer on small guys all the time. I think he could be the exception. Like I'll tell you what, there's three like bona fide small players that are very highly skilled, or at least three that have had a lot of clout and recognition, and they're three name brand players, I guess we'll call them, which is Colin Potter, LJ Mooney, and Cameron Schmidt.
Yeah,
it's Schmidt by far. If I'm picking between the three of them, it's Schmidt by a landslide. And I don't give a Schmidt if he's the smallest one. And I don't give a Schmidt if he's not going to get any bigger, because the guy is tough as nails. And like Guys are like it's so funny. Guys are intimidating, and I don't mean to pick on his stature because it's not something he can control, and he's probably been picked on about it his whole life. So we don't need to hammer that point home. But it's funny to me when a guy who's 6 foot or 6'1" or 6'2" is like trying to get away from him because he gets angry face, like I think he can a little bit of a snap factor to him where he can just see red for a minute and kind of lose his mind. And when you're that kind of guy, you've seen so many guys like this in your life where it doesn't matter just how small they are. It's like, oh, that guy smells like it. Yeah, don't mess with him. He's nuts. Right. And I think he kind of has that to him a little bit, which is what makes me think that he can make it at 5'7".
So I noticed that too, that he does kind of he plays a greasy game. He's annoying, which is good. Like that's really nice to see for a guy his size. Now, the downside is that no one who's been 5'7" has ever been drafted in the first round. Do you think that changes this year?
I think no one that's 5'7" has ever been drafted in the first round, but I think there's been guys that should have.
So do you think I'm asking, do you think that'll change this year? Like, is he, because again, I'm not going to lie. I'm concerned about his size, but the offense, again, we've talked about this. There's not a lot of offensive upside in this draft. And he has a lot of offensive upside. Like his shot is it's a 40 goal shot. I'm going to like flat out say that the way he shoots the puck, like that's a 40 goal NHL score if he, just on the shot, like he can do that. Now, can he score goals, get into greasy areas? And that's more what I would be, concerned about. Is he going to get out muscle a bit? And I'm just wondering how these teams are going to see him. I'm very intrigued.
I don't know if he's going to and it's crazy to say that you don't know if a 5'7" guy is going to get out muscled, but I don't know if he's going to get out muscled because he's almost like, okay, there's small, and then there's like almost so small it can be an advantage sometimes.
It's like an NFL running back who's small, those little guys that just kind of just get through everything. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and because he has such like a low center of gravity, and because he's like, dude, he's a little brick shit house, right? He's tough. He's fire hydrant. Like there's nothing weak.
He's in the play. Like he's never really rubbed out of the play, right? Like
right. So imagine if he puts on 15, 20 pounds of size in his legs and his core strength, and that'd be a huge thing for him is his core strength, because if we can get a lower center of gravity on guys, it's going to allow him to win a lot of battles against bigger players. And I think he's a smart enough player, and I think he has the small space hand skills to get away with it.
So you've already noticed now there's a lot of, I guess, again, we'll go with the pundits that are, on national media, and that he's starting to be all over the place in rankings because I don't think anyone knows where to rank him.
How could you?
Well, there's some guys. I saw he was in the top 10 the other day for another guy. There'll be other guys that have him in the 30s or 40s because it literally just because they don't because of his size. So, in my opinion, I think he would be worth a pick in the first round for someone later in the first round. I think there's the upside. Right. Yeah, the upside's too high to turn that down, especially with some of the guys that we've talked about. I mean, there's these high floor, kind of low ceiling guys.
He's the opposite. He's all ceiling.
Yeah, but I feel like it's worth a shot because the shot plays, and I don't think he's not soft. So I mean, there's
no, and that's the thing. That's the thing that I think is he's got a lot of balls.
Yeah,
he's not, and he takes, and he's not just not afraid, but he takes the physicality to guys.
Yeah,
he brings the physical. So
I think myself, I would be.
He can't control that, but everything that he can control, he does really well.
So I think he does more things than Caulfield did at that age.
And that's a comp I was going to make. Is give me I'm more worried about what's Caulfield, 5'9", 5'8".
Caulfield's still bigger than him though, right? That's the thing. And Caulfield, I think he was the first guy who was he not the first guy who was 5'9" or something who drafted in the first round?
Schmidt's way tougher than Caulfield.
So maybe that's, I mean, I do wonder. It would be interesting. So I'll say this:
is his shot quite as good as Caulfield's, though?
Sorry,
is his shot quite as good as Caulfield's?
I mean, I don't know if his one-timer is, but I mean, the shot I saw at the game on Monday sure was.
Yeah, but you're not going to beat NHL goalies from distance. Like, I mean,
Did
that
you
sharp
see
angle,
the goal he
sharp angle,
scored?
yes. That sharp angle, yes, but the one timer is what I'm more thinking about because that's where
Yeah,
Coppola scored a lot of his goals.
yeah. But you see the goal he scored? Like, that was
I know,
disgusting.
I know. He fit it through a mail slot. I get it. I get it. It
And,
was
like, even in the Holenka, though, he was going to kinda again, he was I wouldn't say the trigger man, but he was going to, like, he's getting in front of the net, like, tapping stuff in. Like, he was doing that, if I remember correctly, in Holenka. Like, he was going to those areas to score. It wasn't just he was ripping pucks home.
I think in this draft he's got to be a first. It's not as strong. It's not as deep.
Well, there's not the offensive upside. Like, I think
No,
that there's
I
got
think
to be. You know what? Again, I think we talked about this before. This might be honestly a team that has a high pick, and this is their second guy. Like, they take the high upside guy. I don't know if a playoff. Again, I talked about this before. Like, I don't know if a contending team is really taking him.
I could, you know what? I could see him going to Dallas.
Really? Oh, okay. I figured, like,
Dude, they
it
love
would,
guys who are smart and work hard and skilled.
yeah, and they took Stankoven, right? Another kind of smaller guy.
And
So yeah,
how's
yeah,
Stankoven doing for them?
exactly. They get value out of that pick. So I mean, yeah,
The
they
debate's
possibly could.
the debate's going to come down to team theory and how is this kid perform in the playoff?
I'll
Because
tell you
here's
this: the Sens aren't taking him. I'll tell you that.
maybe in the second, not in the first.
Did you see who they drafted this year?
I love their draft class this
It
year.
was all big guys. So I don't know if they like. I don't know if a team like Ottawa would be drafting him,
Oh,
but
but when you no, but
Dallas
yes,
actually might not
oh
be a
yes,
bad
oh,
call.
yes,
They might
yes,
see
yes.
value there.
A team like that is who might take him though, because I think you'd want to take him into a team that has lots of big guys.
Yeah,
You got to put him in a
maybe
position where he can succeed, right?
they took Robertson too, right? So I guess yeah, maybe that's not a
Robertson.
huh.
Who took Robertson?
Dallas.
Well, he's 6'3", dude.
Yeah, I know, but we're just talking about guys like they get value on guys.
Well, yes,
Like they
because
see something in these OHL or WHL or Q guys. Like they've done that multiple times.
Jason Robertson wasn't a first rounder that year.
You know what I mean? Like but they're getting
on like 30% of their goals.
yeah, but they're getting these guys who are great players in those leagues at value positions. That's more what I meant there.
Yeah, but like
He's going to score 50 goals this year, and he'd be potentially available for them at that position. Like that's a value pick for them.
just like how's it, the things that teams will have to consider is that if he hits, okay, if he hits and he becomes, let's say what, 35 goals, 30 goals, 35?
That's a win.
Right. But maybe because say he hits 35 goals and 65, 70 points, now you have to pay him like that.
Right.
And if you pay him like that, is he going to be worth, because your contracts are based on your points mostly. He's not going to take a big haircut because he's small, because that's just not how the precedent of contract negotiations in the NHL works.
Yeah.
So do you want to pay a guy like a 35, 40 goal scorer at 5'7" when you get to the playoffs? Do you? And that's going to be a debate I think the teams would have. It's like, okay, yeah, let's say we love the player. We love him. We think he's going to hit. Now, if he's going to hit and he's going to score 35 goals, now we got to pay him $8 million a year, right? Or $8.5 million a year. So do we want to pay a guy that's a 5'7" winger $8.5 million a year? Do we want that?
But I feel like though you're just. I mean,
do we want it?
I feel like you worry about. I mean, it's something you think about, but I think they'd be more worried about. Oh, we're getting like a premium talent in the draft class, like we're getting him at value here, right? Like
but it factors into where he is on your list.
Yeah, it'll factor in, I think, to where
that could be the difference.
I think there's teams that literally will not take him just because of his size. Yeah,
right. So that could be the difference between the first and second round.
Yeah, where there's others that'll probably have him, which is the same with the pundits, like have him quite higher on the board. Like it's going to be a big kind of diversity where he is.
Okay, well, he's not going 6th overall. So let's get
that one out of the way.
That was insane to me. Like okay, and like I like Cameron Schmidt a lot. The fact that I'm like even saying, yeah, he's probably a first rounder at 5'7". Like, how good do you have to be? No one's ever done it.
Yeah.
So like you're an elite hockey player, but I think 6th overall is a little bit rich.
So for that, I think at that spot, yes. I don't think 25th is that rich. I think that would be
No.
very plausible.
Yes. I would have a tough time. I'd have a tough time taking him in the top 20.
Depends who's left, maybe.
You haven't seen 20 guys that you're pretty sure are going to make the NHL and be good?
I haven't seen 20 guys that have that upside.
We're not
Which
talking about that.
I know what you're saying, and I understand, but I mean, there is a point where you see is the upside value worth more than the third line NHL player?
Yes, for sure. But that's
and again, for everyone that'll be different. But
yeah, for everyone it will be different. I'm very curious to see what happens. Like I said, the talent is obviously there. And there's nothing about his game to dislike other than the fact that he's tiny. He does everything he can to make up for it.
Does he have the best shot in the draft?
Maybe. It's called one of them.
Yeah.
Mises is up there.
I think but I think his is better.
Maybe. I'll tell you what, I'd have to think about it, but maybe.
Yeah. But again, you had to think about it. We're thinking about it though. So we're right there's the answer. Again, he's a good goal scorer. As if he can get those areas in the NHL, you believe that he can. So
that's it. So but he's not soft dude. He goes to the hard areas. He does you'll love the way he plays. Honestly.
So the last part I'm going to go to, I'm just going to go to the goalie conversation here. I really liked Ravensburg. He's big and he's very calm in the net. And even when you're at the game, he looks like there's no net there. He looks big.
Well, he's 6'5". There shouldn't be much.
It was just very consistent. So I think
played very quiet in his net.
Yeah, he's not over. He's never overdoing it. Those tend to be the goalies I like.
Well, yeah, sure. You don't like to see a guy having to make crazy acrobatic saves, especially at 6'5", because that means you're probably out of position. So the fact that everything looked pretty routine for him is a good thing.
And he made some big saves too. They didn't have a lot of chances, but I mean, he made a couple kind of point blank saves look fairly easy.
No, but he wasn't having to sell out post to post because he pushed too far.
No,
in the first play.
And it was good too, because again, that's a tough game to play in when you're only getting 14 shots. And I thought there was a couple times where he could have let in some goals, and he didn't. He made a nice confident save. And the team kept the team kind of engaged. And those are the games, right, where the goalie lets in a couple soft ones, or it's not even a soft one; it just kind of goes in. You kind of need a save there. Yeah. He did that, so I really liked that. Now, I will say probably on my list, I have a bias. I probably will not be drafting goalies in the first round. That's just me. I would want it. The only time I'd ever do that really is if I see a premium athlete along with these other factors. Like Askarov is kind of a guy that I really like. I'm still pretty bullish on him. I think he's quite good. But again, he just needs to be developed. But he is, he's big. He has, that ability, he just has other athletic ability that a lot of these goalies don't have. But we will, we'll have a goalie episode here at one point where we'll go over some other guys, because there's some pretty interesting guys in Europe, I think, that might be a little lower down some draft lists that might end up being some decent picks for some teams. Now Ivan Kovic, I think, is a good goalie, but he hasn't played well this year, and he's not that big, and that worries me. Very few NHL goalies, very few at least starting caliber goalies are under 6'2", I would say. Yeah. And he's 5'11". So
no, he's not that small, is he?
I think he's 5'11". I think he's under 6 feet.
Yeah, listed here at 5'11". You're right.
Yeah. So
that's tough, man. That's tough.
Well, he's a really good OHL goalie. I mean, he's going to get drafted. I just don't. Again, I've seen some people bandy about he might be a second rounder. I don't see that.
At 5'11",
And he hasn't had a good year, and it didn't look great last night. But again, as I said, that's a really tough game to play in where you're getting about 10, 12 shots. That's not an easy – you're standing around a lot.
Yeah.
That's a really tough barometer of a game. So, I mean, I would just like to see him get a little more consistent, playing with Brampton. I mean, they've kind of been struggling, but their D-core is not – like, I just watched a couple of their games. Their D-core is not good. I mean, that's like I know, like their top line is great, but their D-core,
oh my goodness,
they're not great. So, I mean, they've been struggling on the, on their special teams too. So, I'd like to, again, hopefully he, kind of rebounds a bit, but I think Ravensburgen can be definitely high off the board for, being a goal. And again, I know he was ranked an A, we'll review him, in a week or two, but, there's some good potential there. He'll probably be, on the World Junior list probably next year. I think that would be probably the guy they run with.
If I'm Team Canada, I'm taking him as my third goalie this year.
Oh yeah, maybe.
Which they normally don't do when it's in Canada, because if a guy gets hurt, they can bring a guy so easily. For the sake of having him around, I do believe that it's beneficial to have guys who are returning. So if you bring him as a third goalie, you can say, hey, look, like, don't even bring your gear. You're not going to dress, but we want you around the team. We want you to, be around the environment as a third goalie. I think that would be very beneficial for him and for the Canadian program, for him to have that experience.
Oh yeah. So one thing that's noteworthy with goalies too, especially in the CHL, the save percentages seem to be, usually a bit lower than, maybe you assume at the NHL level. Just because, I mean, the teams kind of give up more chances than they would at that level. So, I mean, it's not really a hindrance on the goalie. It's more just,
well, there's so many breakdowns in junior hockey.
Yeah. So, I mean, when you see a guy has like a 906, like if you're thinking of it in the NHL, like, oh, that's like not great, but then
above 900,
that's really good actually.
Last
year, I think the OHL leader was under 910.
Yeah, above 900.
So, I mean, so it's just, you need to take, take those with a grain of salt. But again, as I said, we'll have a goalie episode moving forward. But I did like what I saw from Ravensburg. And the goalie last night for the U.S. team actually looked, decently. I thought he was better than the guy I saw in London. I thought he was the better goalie. What's his name?
It's
Bottinger, I think, something like that.
Quinlan.
I saw Quinlan, but the guy last night was Bottinger. Yeah. So I liked what I saw from him. I thought he was quite, I think there might be something there, but he's he'll be a 2026 draft. He's not in the draft next year. So we can talk about him next year.
Good. I think that's a good place to leave it here. I think we covered a good chunk of the guys at least. And those are kind of our thoughts on the two games that we were able to take in person on the CHL USA Prospect Challenge. Something that's been missing from the scouting calendar for a really long time. And it's great to see that they finally put this event together and how successful it was. And a great barometer for us and for everybody to see the top players against one another on the same sheet of ice. So we'll leave it at that, and we will be back much sooner than later here with our next episode, getting back to some of our prospect profiles, covering the remaining of the A-ranked guys before we get into our first ever list.
Can't wait to argue about our lists.
That could be a long episode, but we'll get there. One more to go, and then we're on it. So thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys next time.
All right, we'll see you guys later.